Someone is in bed all day long and makes the whole house gloomy. It's really annoying because she can't even take care of herself. I wonder how long she's going to stay here, sleeping all the time. Every time they see my face, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law complain. It's true. It's the same whether Tom has a wife who doesn't do anything or not. What's the point of him having a wife if she doesn't do anything? My father-in-law also joins in and says, I'm Jane Brown, 32 years old. We have been married for 5 years. My father died because of an illness when I was in high school, and my mother died soon after I got married. I have loved drawing since I was a child, and my dream was to become a picture book artist. After graduating from high school, I went to design school and got a job at a small design office as an illustrator. My husband worked for an advertising company, and we met when he came to our office asking me to illustrate a character for an ad. After 2 years of dating, we got married. My sister-in-law also lived with my in-laws, but we decided to stay with them after we got married. When we got married, I became a freelancer and they allowed me to work from home. I wanted to be a good wife and did my best at housework. It was easy to do because my mother-in-law didn't seem to like housework very much and told me that I could do whatever I wanted. My sister-in-law was also indifferent to housework and then went out for drinks and dinners with her colleagues and friends every day. So we rarely had meals together, but we lived together without any problem. However, 3 years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs at a train station and was seriously injured. My life changed drastically. I suffered a spinal injury that left me with a severe disability, paralysis of the lower half of my body. It was quite a shock at first, but 3 years have passed and I am gradually getting used to this kind of life. My in-laws cared for me when I was injured, but they didn't expect that I would be unable to stand on my own legs for the rest of my life. And as 3 years passed, many things changed. In the midst of all of this, my sister-in-law got married 2 years ago and left home. Now I won't have to see Jane anymore. I could clearly sense that my in-laws are annoyed with me, who is now almost bedridden. I could not refute my parents-in-law, as I can understand that it would be a burden to have a bedridden person in the house. Since my in-laws' house is old, there's no space for a wheelchair to pass through. And I, who cannot move without a wheelchair, has to stay in bed. However, I had been working from home before the accident, so I am able to continue doing so. I consider it's a blessing that my upper body is not paralyzed and I am able to work. I'm now taken care of by a helper and a housekeeper who takes care of me on a daily basis. If I had lived alone, a helper would be able to help me with the cleaning and laundry. But this isn't possible since I have family living with me. The helper can only provide physical assistance. My husband can't take care of me because of his work. My parents are very healthy. My mother-in-law is not disabled or ill. My father-in-law turned 65 last year and is retired, so he's home all the time. Home helpers aren't supposed to provide assistance if you have family living with you who is healthy and not working. Assistance such as cleaning, laundry, and shopping. For the first 2 years or so, my in-laws helped a little while they were at it with their own chores. But gradually they stopped doing it. I can understand that for my mother-in-law, who originally disliked housework, it must have been a hassle for her to do my stuff. My husband was also kind to me in the beginning, but now he rarely even speaks to me and does absolutely nothing to help. I have a job to do, and caring for someone isn't a man's job. That's all he says. Just because my in-laws don't do anything for me doesn't mean that the helpers can assist me because of regulations. But the helper saw my situation and with concern for me, introduced me to a housekeeper. What a waste of money to have a housekeeper. What kind of extravagance are you talking about? But I also have my personal needs. If you don't do my laundry, I won't have any clothes to change into. Are you trying to exploit me, your mother-in-law? I don't think so. But with my situation, I have no choice but to ask you. When I said that, my in-laws looked at me as if they were looking at a nuisance. You're really a pest. We don't have that kind of money. I'll take care of it. I was so glad I had kept my job. So I managed to get a housekeeper to come to the house. The housekeeper was a 52-year-old woman named Susie. Her husband died a long time ago, and she has no children. I felt she was somewhat like my late mother. She was a very kind and gentle person who took care of me very well, and I was very happy. Now, the only people I can talk to are Susie and the helper, not my family. When Susie arrived, my parents-in-law immediately tried to take advantage of the situation. Hey, you! Do the laundry and cleaning over here too. No. What? You're a housekeeper. What are you doing here? If I do your part, it will cost extra. Will you pay for it? Then I'll do it. What the hell is wrong with you? What an arrogant housekeeper you are. There was an argument, but I felt a little relieved when she clearly said no. One day, after about a year of living like that, my sister-in-law came back divorced. She said it was because her husband cheated on her. He was an idiot, so he must have been seduced by a woman. He was a nagging pain. My brother-in-law worked for a large company and seemed to be a faithful businessman. He didn't seem like the type of man who would cheat on his wife. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to make trouble, so I didn't say anything. Mia said the same thing as my parents-in-law, but Susie refused firmly. Susie didn't have a good opinion of them since she's never heard them utter a single kind word to me. I declined. What? What are you doing here? To take care of Jane. Huh? What do you mean? She's a useless housekeeper just like Jane. It must be because she's not paying Susie enough. It doesn't really matter, she's only earning as a side job. She's a useless woman who can't even take care of herself. That's why I have no choice but to ask the housekeeper for help. Mia, Kelly, you both can take care of yourselves, so you don't need help, do you? My parents-in-law's sarcasm doubled when Mia came home. A bedridden wife is nothing but a hindrance. Mia has come back and you only make our house cramped. We need only Mia. You're well off, aren't you? You live on your bed drawing silly doodles. Even when I was working, my sister-in-law would go out of her way to come to my room to sarcastically criticize me. I was fed up with constant sarcasm, so I talked to my husband about it. Hey, tell your mother-in-law and Mia to be a little more careful with their words. I'm hurt too. But it's the truth. What do you mean, the truth? You can't even do your own housework. All you do is sleep on the bed all day. I'm not just sleeping, I'm working. You're working in bed. It's an easy job. You don't have to commute like I do. That's true, but I'm trying my best to be useful to everyone. My family isn't happy with you because you can't take care of the house despite you are my wife. It's no wonder they think you're useless. Do you really think so? Well, don't get so sensitive. Just deal with it. You can't survive if you have to worry about every little thing. My husband wasn't very supportive at all. It's not that I don't feel inconvenience with my body, but it's just so frustrating to know that he doesn't care about me at all. I constantly wish that I could walk or move as before. I wish that at least my husband could be sympathetic and understand how painful and sad I am. Am I selfish and asking too much to feel that way? When I think of that, even though I try not to cry, tears flow. I was in an accident, I got this body, and yet I'm trying to look forward and do my best, and I will not lose because of this. I have been trying to push myself, thinking that there are many other people in the world who are suffering more than me. I feel sad that I don't have my parents to rely on at a time like this. But I also think that it's good because they don't need to see what I'm going through. But when I think that there's no one in this house to stand by me anymore, I feel more and more miserable. I don't have a home to go back to. I wondered if I could at least leave this house with my husband. While I was thinking about that, he threw even more shocking words at me. For a moment, I was happy that he was thinking about me. But the next words threw me into hell. I knew they were right. What do you mean? I think they'll be better off with a younger, healthy wife than you. What? I want to have an heir, after all. But with you, I'm not ready. I don't know. It's just impossible. I felt as if someone had clubbed me in the head. I couldn't believe that my husband would say such a thing to me. I realized that I could no longer expect anything from him. Tom said a lot of things after that, but I couldn't hear anything. The only thing I understood was that he wanted to divorce me. You're useless, like a piece of trash. You may be paying for a housekeeper, but you don't make much money anyway, so you won't have anything left after paying the housekeeper's bill. You're just a burden to us. You're a parasite that hangs around our house. Right, even helpers don't come for free. Parasites that spend money for helpers, get out. I felt that there was no point in staying here any longer after being told such things by both my husband and in-laws. I thought to myself, I don't have a home to go back to. I just have to find a new place to live. Okay, I'll move out. I asked Susie to help me find a new place to live. She was happy to help me, and now all the procedures can be done online, which is very convenient. After all the paperwork was done, I gave Tom the divorce papers. Good! You finally made up your mind. But don't hate me. Hate yourself for having such a body. Fine. But are you sure that you're okay with me leaving? Of course it's fine. I'll find someone more suitable for me. Everybody says I'll find a better wife. Will you be able to make a living? Don't worry about that. Dad's retirement money is still there, and Mia said she got plenty of compensation for the affair. We won't have to worry about money for a while, so I don't need to depend on you anymore. Oh, sure. Then do what you like. I thought Tom seemed to be blind to reality. I moved out without saying anything. And there were some positive things as well. Living alone, a helper could support me with my daily life. They can help with things like cleaning, the laundry, and shopping. I felt really grateful. But I continued to have Susie coming by as before. In fact, she was a businesswoman who worked hard at a major company before she got married, and she is really digitally savvy. But being a large corporation, it was an extremely competitive place, and she just got sick of it and quit when she got married. That was 20 years ago. Susie laughed when she said that. But I wondered if the reason she was able to stand up to my ex-in-laws came from her experience. So now, she is no longer my housekeeper, but is managing my business. She is happy to do it and is a lifesaver. Besides, The new place I moved to is a barrier-free apartment that is wheelchair accessible, so I can move around by myself. The kitchen is spacious enough for me to cook. Just when I was beginning to think that I was finally getting used to my new life, my ex-mother-in-law started to call me a lot. But there was nothing more to talk about, so I decided to ignore the calls. Partly because Susie's support was great, and partly because I could focus on work without all the drama, my business was doing so much better and didn't have time to deal with my ex-mother-in-law. A year passed. I still hear from Mia, though not as often as before. My life was established, so I decided it was time to settle things for once. And I picked up the phone. Hello? Finally, you answered. Why haven't you ever answered the phone? I was worried that something had happened. She suddenly spoke to me in a sweet voice. She had never said anything like that when I lived there. I suspected that she was probably in trouble and heard about me. I wondered what kind of life she had in the past year. I'm grateful for your concern, but I'm fine and doing well. You don't need to worry about me. Oh, well, that's good to hear. By the way, yes? Well, do you still want to live with us like before? Excuse me? You can't be happy living with a parasite, a piece of garbage. I've been thinking about it a lot. It wasn't right to leave you, a physically disabled person, alone. We'll take good care of you so you won't have to worry anymore. I'm doing great. Since I'm on my own, my helper can support me with my chores. They do my cleaning, laundry, and shopping. Besides, Susie helps me with my work. No issues at all. About that business? Is it true you're making more than Tom? Yep. But at the time of the divorce, he seemed to forget about it. He said that you're earning close to $15,000 every month. My income was covering their living expenses. At the beginning, after that accident, they were helping me. At the same time, Tom's company wasn't doing well and his pay was cut. But fortunately, my income had been increasing. So I offered to help. At first, he was saying things like, sorry. We didn't tell his parents anything, since he said they're worried if they found out that his salary dropped. But after 3 years, he seemed to forget that I was paying for most things. I thought he should put aside his own salary when we divorced, but I didn't dare mention it. I also knew that the cause of Mia's divorce was not because of her husband cheating, but because of her. He had contacted me. He also told me that Mia stole his money. Mia said that she received the money as alimony. He said that he will take back exactly what she took, and he will in turn charge her for compensation. I decided to get divorced before my in-laws learned the truth. When I confronted Kelly about it, she was absolutely mortified. Tom fell in love with a girl from a hostess bar and owed a bit of money. Oh, so that's why he wanted a divorce, so he can leech off her earnings? He can't count on something like that. First of all, they weren't in a relationship. He was just another customer. I know. Did you know? Yep, all of it. Why didn't you tell me? Did you also know that Tom's company was in danger? Yes. How dare you not tell me when you knew? According to Kelly, Mia eloped with her unfaithful boyfriend. But he dumped her and came back crying with even more debts. Tom's company went bankrupt 6 months ago and now is searching for a job. But he can't seem to find one that he thinks is suitable for him and now just unemployed. He has lost all confidence in himself and has become a recluse. Because the kids are living with us, they completely used up Dad's retirement fund. There's only debts to pay. Really? So if you come back, everything will be all right. I don't get it. I really didn't understand what she meant by everything will be all right. I couldn't understand the nerve of someone who kicked me out like the way they did and now saying something like this. I also wondered how it's possible to change so much in 1 year. It was sooner than I expected. Tom probably had no clue that his company would actually go bankrupt. It was something that Tom, who was so careless, would have done. Kelly tearfully said that if she had known, she would not have let us get divorced, but it was much too late for that. In the end, all she is saying is that it's all about the money. The only important thing for her is herself. Mia says she doesn't feel like working right now, so she's become a couch potato and gaining weight. Oh, we sold the house to pay off the kids' debts. The house was old and worthless, so they were deducted the cost of clearing the land, and the location was bad, so they didn't get much money for it. Now the family of 4 adults are living in a cheap apartment with only 1 room and forced to live a hard life. Kelly cried on the phone, saying that they were forced to work part-time from morning to night and were so exhausted. It's all your fault since you didn't answer my calls. Only if I was able to reach you before we sold the house. What do you mean? If you had known we were selling the house, you would have helped us, wouldn't you? You lived in that house too, so you must have some attachment to it, right? Not at all. Huh? It stunned me to think just how self-centered she was. I was really glad I didn't answer the phone. Well, even if I had answered, there's no way I would have gone along with such a story. Oh, so both Tom and Mia are being parasites to you? Mother? No. Kelly? So please, come back. You're the only one we can count on. Nope. I'm not family. Don't rely on me. Don't say that. We're sorry for what we done. I apologize. Oh, I couldn't grasp how she could say this. I started to get a headache. I decided it was time to give them an ultimatum and call it a day. I declined. But the reason I picked up your call today is because I had something I want to let you know. What is it? I'm going to sue all of you. What? Why should we pay? Besides, it's not like he cheated on you. He wasn't even with the girl from the hostess bar. It's not for cheating. It's for the mental anguish caused by the verbal abuse I received from all of you. Huh? I told her that I recorded and videotaped all the abusive language from them. When I told her the evidence I had, she became quite upset and hung up the phone abruptly. Maybe she thought I might demand more if we continued our talk. I wonder if this was what it was like to feel guilty. When I made a request for compensation through my lawyer, Kelly tearfully pleaded to somehow make it go away. They complained about the current situation. Of course, there was no way I would accept. I have been asked to illustrate a picture book. I'm one step closer to my dream of becoming a picture book author someday. Many things have happened to me, but I would continue to live my life positively and without taking myself too seriously.
Starting today, Mom is moving in with us. She's your mother-in-law, so take good care of her. Without any discussion or notice, my husband Huey brought home his mother, Isadora, announcing that she'd be living with us. To make matters worse, he had decided to turn my room into Isadora's room and dumped my belongings in the hallway. Where am I supposed to sleep now that my room's gone? You've got the hallway, haven't you? He said with a smirk as I turned to face him, incredulous. My name is Gina, and I'm a 38-year-old housewife. 5 years ago, I lost both my parents in a sudden car accident. Having no siblings or relatives, I found myself utterly alone. Craving the connection that comes with family, I was desperate to get married. That's when I met Huey, my current husband. His unwavering commitment, self-assuredness, and above all, his kindness drew me in. We dated, got married 3 months ago, and have been living together since. I used to work as a nurse, but overworked myself to the point of falling seriously ill. The diagnosis? Burnout from excessive work. When I told Huey, he said, I've been worried you're pushing yourself too hard. Your health is what matters most. Let me handle work. Why don't you wait for me at home? His concern for my well-being touched my heart. Though hesitant to leave my nursing career, I knew I could return any time thanks to my credentials. So I quit my job and decided to be a full-time housewife. But that's when things began to change between Huey and me. He started to restrict what I could do, saying it was for my own good. But it escalated. Before I knew it, he began to control every aspect of my life. Feeling obligated because he was supporting me financially, I adopted the mindset that I must obey him. Life went on like this for about 6 months, until one day, I returned home from grocery shopping to find Isadora there. I greeted her, thinking she had come for a visit. Heading to my room to put away the groceries, I found all my belongings dumped in the hallway. Confused, I stood there until Huey came to explain. My in-laws divorced when my husband was little, and he was raised by Isadora, his mom. He hadn't seen his father in years and was very attached to Isadora. For quite some time, he'd been planning to have her move in with us, unbeknownst to me. I was stunned to hear that these plans had already been in motion. Just then, my husband dropped another bombshell. Mom has been doing everything by herself for years. She's getting up there in age, and I want to make her life easier. So, starting tomorrow, make food for 3 people, okay? Take care of all the household chores, and don't bother Mom with them. Got it? Before I could fully understand what he was saying, he added unapologetically that since there's no room for Isadora in this house, she'll be using my room, and my belongings were tossed into the hallway because they were in the way. When I asked where I would sleep, both my husband and Isadora just laughed. Saying there was no other place but the hallway. As crazy and unfair as this sounded, my mind quickly became foggy, filled with thoughts that I should fully support this and take care of Isadora. I accepted my husband's ridiculous proposal, saying, All right, I understand. Let's get along starting today. After all, I owe everything to my husband, and it's only natural to extend gratitude to Isadora who raised him. I was enthusiastic about meeting their demands. Living with Isadora, both she and my husband began to criticize every little thing I did. You're terrible at washing dishes. Are you really that stupid? Today's meal is too salty. Are you trying to kill us? I became the target of their verbal abuse. So there I was, mentally and physically drained, ultimately spending my nights sleeping in the hallway. I didn't recognize the absurdity of my situation. Whenever I felt tired, I blamed myself for not doing enough and obediently went on with my day. Then one winter day, Isadora ordered me to clean every corner of the house and prepare a dinner worthy of a luxury hotel for someone special she was bringing home. I spent the day scouring the house and shopping for ingredients, frantically researching recipes to create an array of lavish dishes. Once the meal was ready, I was told to stay in the hallway so as not to bother the guests. I complied without question, making sure to stay out of sight. From the laughter that occasionally leaked from the living room, I gathered that Isadora's guest was her current boyfriend. As the night wore on, I heard that the guest would be staying overnight. Isabella told me to wait in the kitchen, adding, "Gina, if Louis finds out you sleep in the hallway, he'll be shocked. It's not a good look. Could you just sleep in the kitchen tonight, okay?" I was used to listening to my husband, so I went to check with him. He seemed to be in a bad mood from work and yelled, "Don't come in here for every little thing. I don't want to see your face," before hitting me. Being hit was nothing new, so I left quickly to avoid making him angrier. Since I couldn't confirm where to sleep with my husband, I decided to sleep in the hallway as usual. Early in the morning, I was awakened by a surprised male voice and looked up to see a man staring down at me. I didn't see his face yesterday, but it's probably Louis, Isadora's boyfriend. "What are you doing here? Do you sleep in this house?" Caught off guard, I told him the truth. I'm Huey's wife and usually sleep in the hallway. Seeing my nonchalant attitude towards the situation, Louis paused, then asked for my contact information. When I told him I didn't have a cell phone because my husband manages it, he suggested meeting at a nearby cafe when the sun comes up. He asked me to come secretly, without telling my husband or Isadora. His serious gaze convinced me to agree. Later, Louis went home, seen off by Isadora and my husband. As the sun rose, I told my family I was going grocery shopping and headed to the cafe where Louis was already waiting. We went inside. While waiting for our drinks, Louis said, "Actually, I've invited another person today." Shortly after, a woman he knows arrives. "Nice to meet you. I'm Eileen. I've known Louis for a long time." Eileen was an excellent listener, and we had a lively chat. It had been a while since I talked to someone other than my husband and Isadora. I realized I had almost forgotten how to communicate, and I had a great time. On the way home, Eileen, sensing something was off, kindly asked me about my life. I told her the truth, and she invited me for tea again the next day. I agreed. For several days, our morning tea and casual chats continued. As I spoke to Eileen in the cafe, I started to feel something was wrong with my current life. I became emotional during our talks. It was then that I finally realized my current environment was unjust. Eileen softly smiled, gently wiping away my tears with a handkerchief. It turns out Eileen is a mental health professional. Louis had noticed something was off and asked her to come to listen. Eileen explained that if she had immediately pointed out that my husband and Isadora were the issue, I might have closed off. So she took the time to support me, helping me slowly realize what was going on. "At first, I listened to you because it was a job required, but now it's different. I want to help Gina as a friend. If Gina wants our help, we're here, always ready to lend a hand." Hearing these warm words, I can't stop the tears from flowing. Eileen gently rubs my back as I continue to cry uncontrollably. When I finally stop crying, it's time to part ways with Eileen and head home. As we say goodbye, she assures me, "We're always on your side." On the way home, my clouded thoughts finally clear, filling me with a newfound sense of relief. That night, when my husband starts complaining about my cooking again, for the first time, I retort, "If it's too bland for you, add your own seasoning." My husband is momentarily surprised, but quickly turns red with rage. "How dare you speak to me like that?" he shouts. Isadora, who's already there, starts to get angry as well, and both she and my husband yell, "I want a divorce. Get out of this house now." Thinking that it might be a good thing for them to kick me out, I simply nod my head as usual. While packing, my husband orders me to be ready for a shower and make the next meal more delicious. To all of this, I reply as always, "It's because I'm a bad wife," and finish packing my minimal belongings. My husband, annoyed that things didn't go his way, lets out a loud sigh and grabs a beer from the kitchen. Ignoring him, I take my bags to the front door. Isadora follows me, letting out an obvious sigh. If you're really sorry, I might forgive you. Now go do the dishes. No, I'm leaving because my husband told me to. Upon hearing this, Isadora goes to call my beer-drinking husband. Ignoring them both, I walk out of the house and into the waiting taxi, putting distance between myself and that home. Inside the taxi, I wonder why I'd ever listened to such people. Maybe unconsciously, I didn't want to sever family ties. Realizing that I had been enduring my husband and Isadora's unreasonable demands and verbal abuse for this reason makes me firmly decide once again that I will divorce for my own freedom. Given the toxicity I had endured through the divorce, I had already begun preparations to claim financial compensation. Along with the divorce papers, I sent an invoice. Ever since I left the house, my phone was bombarded with calls and texts from my husband and Isadora, all of which I ignored. Unreachable and furious after reviewing the divorce papers and bills, my husband decided to take legal action against me. I got a notice from the court saying that he had filed a lawsuit against me. I was shaken for a moment, but then thought, well, it figures with those people, and began preparing my case. Thanks to Eileen's advice, I had a strong case. I presented as evidence the recordings I had made of my husband's abusive language before leaving the house, as well as photos of injuries he had inflicted on me, and medical reports that backed them up. The evidence worked in my favor, and I won the case. The court ordered him to grant the divorce and pay tens of thousands in compensation. Finally, I gained a peaceful, humane life. Afterward, Eileen told me that I was oblivious to it, because I was so emotionally dependent on my ex-husband, but the yelling from him and Isadora was heard by the neighbors. There were already rumors that I was perhaps being abused, or at least mistreated. My departure confirmed their suspicions, and the rumors spread like wildfire. I heard they're now seen as the family that tormented their wife. Isadora and Louis broke up right after. It seems they stayed together while I was there because they feared it might hurt me if they separated. Isadora was apparently devastated, clinging to Louis's feet and crying, but he firmly told her, "I can't be with someone who doesn't value their son's wife and family. I can't imagine a future with someone who can't feel gratitude for the people close to them." Since I left the house, my husband was forced to take care of household chores, something he was never good at. He and Isadora seemed to be constantly arguing about dividing up the tasks. He used to relieve his work stress by taking it out on me, but with me gone, he turned to alcohol for relief. During our legal proceedings, his drinking increased significantly. When he drank, he would become violent, and he became even more aggressive, now even towards Isadora. One day, he went to work still under the influence and caused some trouble. This led to disciplinary action, and he lost his job. Now he seems to be doing tough physical labor to make ends meet. Fortunately, I had received the settlement money in a lump sum, so I wasn't affected by his downfall. After giving heartfelt thank yous to Eileen and Louis, who had helped me, I moved far away and started a new life. Even though Eileen and I now live farther apart, we continue to deepen our friendship, meeting for coffee and taking trips together. Though this was an awful experience, and I didn't gain a family, I found something equally valuable: true friendship. I've returned to nursing, feeling even more fulfilled than before as I work diligently for my patients. And I've tried starting new things that I've always been interested in, like marathons and swimming. I'm enjoying my days, free and uncontrolled by anyone, filled with fun and excitement.